In this special edition of Studio Inter, we'll be interviewing the former commercial venue director at Inter, Mr. David Garth. We'll be talking to him about the changes imposed by Suning, life in Italy and Italian football, the new San Siro stadium, and much, much more. Everything here on Studio Inter, only on SempreInter.com.
Per De Vrij, c'è la torre per Messina, l'ha presa! L'ha ripresa Messina! L'ha ripresa Messina! Gol! E gol, e gol, e gol! E gol, e gol, e gol! Il Toro! Il Toro! Il Toro! Il tiro! Samir! Samir! Bambandanovic! La recupera Brozovic, andiamo in contropiede, la porta è vuota, tira, attenzione, e gol! E gol!
And we are now joined by a guest that I have been wanting to get on the pod for many, many months. So thank you, first of all, for coming on, and sorry for me stalking you. He's the former commercial venue director at Inter, and he's also worked at Manchester United before that. Welcome to Studio Inter, making his debut, Mr. David Garth.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you for having me.
So good to have you. Let's first things first. Your title, commercial venue director. What did that actually entail in practice when you were at Inter?
Yeah, I mean, basically, my role was to try and build Inter's venue business out of San Siro. So everything, ticketing, hospitality, and membership related. Which was obviously in the early days was a big task and a difficult task because there was a hell of a lot of work to do. But in essence, that was my role, was to how we kind of made sure that the venue, which is obviously one of the key revenue streams for any football club in the world, was strong and growing.
So if what exactly did you do when you joined? Like how much change was that, or did that entail when you started working?
I was very lucky because we only had a small team at the start. There was only maybe 11 or 12 people, but the team that I had was such a dedicated group, hard-working group, and we just needed to get some stability and strategy behind obviously the power of what Inter is as a brand. Now, Inter as a brand in itself is, as we've heard many times, it was pitched to me when I first went to speak to Inter back in 2014. One of the biggest brands in the world, but from a revenue perspective, extremely low down the order. So the stadium had to be, and I know typical fans don't like this term, but monetized. And I'm a football fan, and the rough part of football is that there has to be a business behind the football pitch. You look at every top club in the world, it focuses so hard on its off the pitch business because it has to do. That's what fuels it. That's what fuels the pitch. Because especially in today's terms now with financial fair play, you have to have a business behind it that's generating income to go out and invest in the team and invest in facilities and invest in pushing the club where back to where it should be. So stadium, key pillar, stadium, retail, sponsorship, TV rights, they're all the key revenue streams for the club. And obviously for the venue side, we had to really do a lot of work because my first game when I came to talk to the club about joining, there was only, I think it was against Verona in November 2014. And I think the actual nominal attendance was around 27,000.
Wow.
So there was a hell of a lot of work to do. I mean, the average attendance that first season, I think 14-15, ended at around 37,000 average, which, for Inter Milan, I'm back calling Inter Milan now. I'm back living in the UK. For Inter, that's criminal because, not only is San Siro it's an iconic stadium. It's 80,000 capacity. It's an iconic venue, but Inter's fan base. Inter, I think the last count was something like 350 million fans and growing, which obviously a lot of those live outside of Italy. But you've got to look at how you can get people to your stadium easily, what experience they have, and everything around that. The only thing you can't control is what happens at kickoff, but everything else around that framework we had to work extremely hard on.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you something that lends itself very much to this discussion. I saw that when you left Inter about a year ago, you filled you with immense pride to see the progress that the club had made since you joined to when you'd left last year. So I was just wondering, what was the biggest or the most sort of important change that was made during your time? And I mean, perhaps it's what you've said about these attendance figures. I mean, what fills you with most pride looking back at what you achieved there?
I mean, there's many from a figures and revenue point of view. What we achieved was outstanding, given what we what me and the guys had to work with. I think reconnecting and re-engaging with the fans was a huge thing, because Inter's fans are the most passionate group that I've ever worked with. And what saddened me initially when I first joined was that there just seemed to be a real disconnect between the club and the fan base itself. So for example, through the Interclub network, which Nicola and the guys run and do a phenomenal job. I mean, I think the numbers this year are something like 138,000 of paid members. What those guys do globally to bang the drum for Inter is out of this world. I think we're up to something like 2,000 Interclub events globally across a year when I left last June, July. So we built up a phenomenal engagement process through the Interclubs, through then the academy business that Barbara Beege and the team run now, and are doing incredible work across globally, again, taking the Inter training methods and the rationale of how to become men as players. What Barbara and the team are doing, coupled with the Interclub, was to really get the brand out there, but also get the fans involved a lot more. And I was so proud that to see that the attendances rise how they did. With in fairness, the team, obviously our best performance was fourth. We qualified for the Champions League last May, but up to that point, there was very little for the fans to really get behind, other than a belief in the colours and a belief in things will get better. And I used to stress a lot to people, because obviously as a management team, we got a lot of stick from fans. But to be honest with you, the work that myself and the rest of the guys did at that club was phenomenal. We had very little things to work with. A lot, Inter had very much been a club that did a lot of things internally, a lot of things in house, but needed that extra push then to really kick on to become the club it is now. And over the last 2 or 3 years, the transformation, seeing it go from, I don't think we turned over something like 160 million in that first year, through to 300 plus, whatever it's going to be this year. That from a business point of view is outstanding. For a club such as Man City or EPL clubs or La Liga clubs, it's very easy in terms of revenues for them to push their turnovers so high. What Inter did was completely organic, and it was all done through the hard graft of the team and the people that are there. And I've said from day one that Inter as a club were very, very fortunate to have so many people come in completely cold to Italy, but worked in football and really gel and bond to push the club forward, because now you're seeing the results of the groundwork that was done from 14-15 onwards. And there's some great people there, and all fans want success, all fans want trophies, all fans want to be going to a parade at the end of the season where you're seeing some silverware. But for the position that for Inter to qualify 2 years on the bounce for the Champions League on the back of the last 4 years is a phenomenal achievement. Believe me, guys, what I walked into to what is now is night and day. So, the club that's risen from the Phoenix and the Flames kind of thing that's come up now, I was so pleased and so proud to see the team do it again. And then now it's time for them to kick on to that next level. And hopefully now, there's, by the sound of it, there's going to be a lot of changes in the summer, but the base is there. The base is there, the mentality is there with the ownership, with the management team, and everything is now pointing in such a great direction for the team to now take that next step and really challenge Juve. That was, when I first joined Inter, the challenge was, look, we're 10 years behind Juventus, at least 10 years behind. How do we bridge that gap in as quick a time as possible? Off the field, obviously, we worked we kind of pulled 10 years worth of work into 3 years to, I think this year, into past them commercially from what I read.
Yeah.
Which again, if you look at that,
unbelievable.
Not a lot of people make reference to that, because it's only people that understand the business side of football and the huge gulf that was between the two clubs. Now, on the park is another matter. I mean, obviously, Juve have been able to invest a hell of a lot in the years to get that stretch, but Inter are not a million miles away with some shrewd acquisitions and a little bit more, a bit more belief, I think. In some of the key matches next season, I'd like to see them a lot closer. But from a business point of view, Inter swam the channel and back.
Yeah. This kind of leads into my next question is, what impression have you got of Suning and how they operate, and during your period when you were working under them?
I mean, I spent a lot of time with the guys, obviously in Milan, because a lot of the Suning guys were in the offices. But I went to Nanjing quite a few times as well, because one of the big engagement pieces was the fan base out there, because it is so vast. How did we make it better? So my impression from the very early doors was just wow. These guys are extremely serious, extremely driven to make Inter not just one of the best. They want to be the best. These guys don't fail at anything. So as a fan base listening to this, and I know there's been ups and downs in terms of what I only read, what I see on social media, etc. People saying about the project and this and that. Suning's project is to be the best in whatever field they're in, whatever they turn their hand to. They'll just want to be the best. And in Stephen, in terms of a custodian, of somebody who's come in, because you only ever, the staff and the people, the presidents, you only ever custodians of a football club. It belongs to the fans, it belongs to its history. But I think now, Stephen's spent a few years getting to grips with what Inter is about, and he's fully in it. He's fully immersed in it, and that needed to happen. You need leadership from within, and they've got that now, and it seems to be driving just bigger and bigger results. Obviously, that's in no disrespect to Eric Tahir, who came in and really put the building blocks in place for what Inter is. Inter is now, but the Suning guys have really come in, and that was always the aim, was they would come in and take the club on to the next level. And from day one, I was mightily impressed with them, and the more and more I dealt with them, the more you could see how serious they were. Obviously, they needed to adjust and understand not just football in general, but Italian football, because it is very, very unique. I've worked in the UK, I've worked in England, Scotland, and then Italy. And Italian football is very, very unique, and you have to adjust to Italian football rather than Italian football adjusting to you, because it's going to take a lot of time for Italian football to change a general mentality. So the Suning guys had to get that, and they've, so far so good.
Great. Will?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to San Siro, obviously, because this is very much what you were dealing in on a daily basis. There's been a lot of talk, not so much in the last couple of weeks, but in the last couple of months, about Suning's supposed desire to maybe get rid of San Siro and build a new stadium. There was a lot of obviously meetings with Milan and with the council a couple of months ago. Sounded back in March as if the direction was more sort of towards a new stadium than a renovated San Siro. So I was just wondering if you could explain why to a fan who might be potentially very upset to see San Siro go, what is the benefit of potentially getting rid of this stadium and taking a completely new direction from a sort of commercial business point of view? Why would Suning potentially want to do that?
I think it really is one with progress. I mean, look, the first time I pulled up at San Siro, it was goosebumps. San Siro on a night when it's all lit up and the atmosphere and the noise and the history and everything you think about back to the 1990 World Cup and pre that. But football has to evolve and football has to move on. And, San Siro, for example, only has just there or thereabouts 3,000 corporate seats. So, and again,
that's extraordinary.
a purist football fan, corporate seating is a dirty word, but it's vital. It's vital to your business. So that all needs to be built out in terms of an expanded product. Italy is now starting to really grasp what sports hospitality is, and we brought the rights back in house last year, and the team have done phenomenally well in generating revenue. But the stadium is very old, very archaic, and needs a hell of a lot of modernisation to build a bigger and broader business. Fan services, fan facilities, Wi-Fi. Everything needs to be about engaging the fan base that goes in and making sure fans get the service they want from the stadium that they visit. And San Siro is difficult. None of the tiers connect. So it's a difficult stadium to operate. But, I get that, the football fan in me, the kid in me that saw San Siro on the TV when I was a child, wow, just wow. But football has to move on. And all clubs now need a venue business that can support the ambition and growth of the football club. And Inter and Milan are no different. I know they both want the same thing. So I think it will probably happen. Whether it will be a renovation and modernisation of the existing structure, whether they'll drop the existing structure and move it and build a new stadium on the site somewhere, I'm not sure, but it has to happen. Inter has to grow. Inter has to develop. I mean, the club's now moved into the top 5 attendances in Europe. They've gone above Real Madrid, believe it or not.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing.
It's amazing to see that, with the fan base that's there, with the facilities and the service within San Siro is not up on a level playing field with it. Just what will happen when you walk into that stadium and it's brought into the modern day. All right, yeah, will it lose its soul a little bit? Maybe. But Inter has to evolve as a business. Football evolves. And I'm sure that every fan, when they do take their seat in the new San Siro 2.0, whatever it is, will be immensely impressed with how it works. Because, I've spent a lot of time in US stadia in the last year or so. And some of the teams over there obviously moved away from the San Francisco 49ers, for example, moved away from Candlestick Park to Levi Stadium. But the facilities and the different experience and the parking and the whole match day experience is so much easier and better now as a fan consuming the sport. That's what the Inter fans will benefit from. And we may lose that little bit of San Siro and the little bit of spirit about it, but the club has to move forward and grow.
True. You mentioned a little bit about how Italian, you have to adapt to Italian football and not Italian football adapt to you. One of those, maybe one of the negative sides of that is how the Italian football's reputation of the never-ending bureaucracy and the ability to never get things done. What differences have you noticed between how English clubs operate off the pitch and how things are done in the Serie A, and is that maybe being changed and modernized in Italy?
I hope so eventually. I mean, the biggest change that I've seen in the last few years is that many clubs now following Inter's lead in being actually proactive in trying to engage and get fans in the stadium. The marketing team and the venue team at Inter have done a phenomenal job in leading the way, really, in how to engage a fan base and get them involved. And I think I've seen more and more clubs now taking this route. Inter really pioneered how to really get tickets into market and get people in the stadium, because Juve built their stadium to fill it, and they've done that. Inter obviously had nigh on 80,000 seats a game to try and fill. So we had to be very, very clever in how we went to market. We had to basically build a sales and marketing plan that worked on 19 different events. So 19 different match days to target different demographics on markets, depending on the weather, depending on the kickoff time. So I've seen more clubs doing this now, targeting different sectors, families, students. So I think Serie A is starting to learn, and thankfully, the Inter way of how to go to market. And I think I saw a statistic the other day that TV viewing figures are going down, which is obviously a concern because then revenue goes down from the broadcasters. But I think the next step now is for the Serie A with the TV broadcasters to look at their product, because we want, the EPL prove that you can have full stadia and good viewing figures. So I think the TV companies in Serie A need to work on how they make a compelling product for people sat at home, because not everybody goes to the stadiums on a Saturday. For example, guys in Sicily, there's only a few of them that go every week to San Siro. There's a hell of a lot that sit at home and wait for the coverage on TV. So I think the broadcasters need to do some work and invest in their product for the non-visiting fans, because the clubs now are starting to push on the live a lot more. And, it's all about live sport. If you're a football fan, you want to be in your stadium with your team. There's guys from the southern tip of Puglia get on a Pullman on Friday night to get to San Siro for the game at the weekend, then get back on the Pullman straight after the game and get back to southern tip of Puglia on early hours on Monday morning. Their entire weekend is consumed by Inter. But there's a hell of a lot that stay at home and watch on TV. So it's finding that balance. And I think, Serie A now, the good thing about Serie A is its legacy. Globally, Italian football has obviously been a top product from the 70s and the 80s. And then it's gone through, it's watched everybody else go past it in the recent times. The Premier League, La Liga, and Bundesliga have gone past Serie A. But, those clubs have been building over time, whereas Serie A have the platform there. Everyone knows about Serie A. The league just need to now reinvest in how they get more people consuming the product globally. The global figures for Serie A are improving and getting better. The rights money from globally is getting better. But Serie A now need to really, and I've said this from joining Inter, that the EPL is the way to look at it in terms of an independent commissioner that basically says, right, clubs, here's your money. Leave me to do my job and make sure I get you more money for our league, our product, and we run a good infrastructure business that supports the football clubs. There's obviously the clubs still have a lot of say in what happens with voting, and the chairman are all involved, and the owners and the presidents. I think that needs to step back now to the Scudamore type model in Italy, where Serie A, phenomenal product, just needs to be managed to its best and its potential to generate as much as it can.
Well, one thing they should do is to give a certain Mr. David Garth a call, because what you guys did at Inter was simply fantastic. So maybe you could replicate that for the whole league. What do you think about
that? I don't know. I think I'm too ingrained in black and blue, my friend, to be do anything like that.
Oh, nice one.
But look, what was pleasing for me from, like I said, joining the club in 2014 to leaving the club and still watching Serie A now, when I watch the live games and I see full stadium and more people there, likes of Udinese getting good crowds, and Cagliari building a ground and filling it. It's great that the league is now, and the people are now coming back out to support football. And we pioneered a lot of new things into the family stand, student offers. We did a hell of a lot more with the interclub members to get them to the stadium. I think there was a game. It was either this season or last season where there was with guys that bought season tickets and single tickets, 20,000 plus members in the stadium.
Wow.
So there's so much you can do, like where we had the social media night last year, which again, pushing that we had a game against Cagliari on a Wednesday night, but in a different way, with social influencers who could talk about the game and let more people know about it. So we just experimented and tried, and what Inter have always been very good at in the last few years is experimenting different things. And the guys there, the marketing team, the venue team, the sponsorship guys, the whole commercial raft of people at Inter have really changed the book in Italy of how to run the club. And for me now, sat out of it looking in, I feel very proud of those guys and what they're achieving constantly.
Well, certainly you should be proud, because you guys did something amazing, and thank you for your service to the club. God knows it was necessary. I
thank the fans, because the fans stuck with us. There was a lot of negativity, a lot of talk about these English people coming in and these Americans coming in, and we're an Italian club. But the fans opened themselves up to us, and they believed in us, and they got behind us, and that was the hardest thing. Some of the goodbyes I had to do was, it broke my heart some places, because they were, why are you leaving? Please don't go. You stay with Inter. And, it was really tough, really tough. And it was harder leaving Inter than what it was to leave Man United, because it was really connected with not only the staff, because we all came into it together. The staff grew organically over the years I was there, but the fans really made us welcome. And, I thanked them a lot when I left last year, because, the fan base, the Inter fan base, were just first class. And I would love to see whoever the captain is next season, lifting a trophy, a Scudetto hopefully, but a trophy just as a testament to those fans, because I've never experienced such a dedicated group of people that would walk through fire for their football club. And now I want to see them get something back. I wanted to win a trophy when I was there, because just to see the reaction, just to be there and see the fan reaction. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see that, but hopefully I will from afar. And the fans just deserve now the next level. And I know that everybody inside the club are desperate to put something in the cabinet. And I'm sure that, with a little bit of luck and a little bit of good planning this next summer, I'm sure that's going to happen soon.
Well, we hope you're right. From your mouth to God's ears, as the saying goes. Thank you so much, David Garth. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, David.
No problem, guys.
It's an absolute pleasure having you on. And if you're on Twitter as well, and you're actually a great follow on Twitter. You tweet out some hilarious things. I'm
a passive tweeter. I just retweet and like. That's all really.
But they are funny. The stuff you retweet is funny. I got to give you that. It's at Blue Bantam, is it?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
that's the one. Okay, thank you so much, David, for coming on. Have a good weekend, and hope to speak to you soon.
You too, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, David.
All the best, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ciao.